Hello, everybody. I'm Jaguar Adva Gal. I'm a lawyer, a CPA, but a nice person. And what I do is I incorporate crypto and gaming companies around the globe in several countries, wherever is best for each client. And then I take care of the licensing and then taxation, being a CPA after all. And then, what's most important for most companies, I take care of their banking. And I'd like to talk to you today not about myself and what I do, but about something related to that. Since everybody's heard about FTX, Celsius, and maybe coming up, Genesis nowadays, today actually, fall, I would like to talk about the importance of accounting rules, ancient accounting rules, and how these can avoid those kind of falls. As of now, we do not know. We're in November 2022 for the video when it comes out. We do not know how much it was of a fraud or mistake or just negligent behavior with investors and clients' funds. But what I can tell you right now, as of now, is that we already have very common accounting rules that say that when you put your assets in your balance sheet, you have to value them not as a mark-to-market necessarily, but in a very conservative way of their cost or value, the lowest of which. This is a very conservative rules that relate to any assets, any balance sheet. And they relate to stock and shareholders, and they should relate to crypto companies just as well. Tokenomics and new economy, etc. We've had that in the year 2000 of the dot-com bubble, and nothing will change in that sense. We need those accounting rules to be applied to crypto just as well. But then will come people who say, well, Celsius and FTX and many others are private companies. They're not publicly traded companies, and therefore they do not have to comply with those boring, old economy kind of accounting rules when they address their clients, suppliers, and investors. However, we still have securities laws, which are very old, just as well, that say in a very general way, I'm generalizing several countries' rules, security rules, that say that as long as you go and offer your shares, let's think if crypto is a share or not, or offer to invest in your company to more than 35 offerees, therefore you have to act like a publicly traded company. You're not publicly traded, but you're public untraded, non-traded company. And if so, we go back again to those very simple accounting rules. And what happened with FTX and Celsius as well? They were registering on their balance sheets assets. The assets were mainly and mostly their own tokens, during which times both companies were using market-making companies such as Alameda for FTX, or other companies in Celsius, and other companies that are falling off right now, not just these ones, to make the market for them and actually buy and sell and to support prices of their own tokens. And support is a very nice word. What we call it in the securities markets, in the old ones, before crypto was born at all, what we call is actually running your shares, your share price, in a very unlawful way, in a forbidden way. So, the way to solve it, or the way to adhere to that, and to relate to that, would be to just take the old conservative accounting rules and just apply them to crypto, and create. In the States, we have the AIBC, and we have the US accounting rules. And in many European countries, we have the local ones, each for every country. But to just apply those very old accounting rules to crypto accounting just as well. And the securities rules and securities laws to apply them to whatever investment you're looking for, even with or without calling your crypto as security. Maybe we all remember the times, the good old days of 2017 of the ICOs, that everybody was saying we're only issuing a utility token and it's not a security token. And there came the slogan that says, whatever utility you call it, the regulators will call it a security. Finally, it will be an STO, a security token offering. So if we look at most of tokens as security tokens, as mostly they are by how we test, one of the tests that we know whether it is a security or not, therefore we have to comply with securities laws, and which say that if we go to more than 35 people, we have to do what publicly traded companies are doing with their accounting, and they adhere to those conservative rules. So it's supposedly a very basic approach. But now let's talk about MiCA rules, the recent MiCA rules, and other regulations and their requirements, including accounting, including AML, including KYC, including all the hustle that most startups, crypto startups hate, because it's very cumbersome, it's very long, it's tedious, and it takes a lot of accounting and legal firms' costs in order to do that. Basically, you cannot avoid that. And because you cannot avoid that, it actually bans out a lot of youngsters, young startups, and low capital and I would say poorly funded initiatives, which is sad, but it's not more sad than it is in any other industry, in the securities industries, in startup high-tech industries as well. So what I would support, and I support that, is full compliance with AML procedures, KYC included, and accounting rules, be it crypto or not necessarily. So that is one point. Second, I would like to talk about how MiCA regulations refer to each country regulations. Because one of the basic elements of MiCA is that it's a pan-European regulation which actually applies in each and every country, whether that country forces that or adopts that into its own laws or not, because countries do not have to adopt those regulations internally. And then what do we have? Something very similar to the GDPR regulation, the data privacy regulations, which were enacted before May 2018, and the decision was to get them in force and to be valid from May 2018. And then what happened? Everybody's kind of ignored that and ignored until 2016 and even until 2018. And then on May 2018, all companies have come to the legal firms and accounting firms to comply with those, even though they had a preparation time of about 2 years. Only the very huge corporates were doing compliance beforehand. And then everybody came, and everybody wanted to adhere to that and to comply. And some did not, or did not want to pay for that. And then came some claims. But the claims had fines which were like $300 in the beginning, $3,000 or so. Nobody was really scared only until some of the fines were in a sense of millions of dollars of fines. Then came the understanding that we actually need to comply with those. So that has taken some years, and MiCA regulations are enacted, they're going into force, but I think it will be something very similar to the GDPR, in which it will take a few years, but then we'll have full compliance, or full, at least attempts for compliance, but it will only be when the fines are going to be big enough to affect the industry. So that's about MiCA. And then the issue we will have after we comply with all the regulations, and after all our clients, the companies I build, will comply to everything, and it will take them a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and legal fees as well, then they'll receive revenues in crypto, most of them. And they'll exchange that crypto into fiat, into very regulated and very licensed exchanges, which will help, flow the blood, sweat, and tears in order to comply with everything. But then they'll want to pay taxes with fiat. And for that, they'll have to have their fiat in a bank, in a regular bank, not in an EMI, in a regular bank, old-style bank. And then the banks will refuse to receive those fiat funds because it's too high of a risk for their profile, for their risk profile. And then we'll have the same problem, not being able to pay taxes because banks won't receive your fiat. And I think this would be the major point in which the industry will require the banks to accept those funds. Just last year, I won, I think, the only so far presidential case in Israel, which everybody was calling Bitcoin versus the banks, but it was actually Arab versus Bank Mercantile, in which not a Supreme Court, but a unit underneath the Supreme Court, a district court, ordered the banks to receive crypto-originated fiat funds unless they can present a very specific reason why not to, per client. And that was the only case that was precedential, meaning not just a mediation or an agreement, but everybody else could use that case as well. And thanks to that, most of the banks kind of hate me recently because they've had to, and they did that just last week, to publish their new year 2023 crypto-related policies. And they had to change their policies and their risk management policies regarding crypto funds. And I take a pride in that case because if I have the major, the largest 5 or 10 banks kind of like hating me for that, then that's a blessing for the industry. So what I'm saying is that regulations, accounting, old accounting rules, old security rules, and then make sure we don't get stuck in the banking rules. So we have to so-called attack, I would say, and handle banks immediately and very quickly so we don't get stuck on that sense. So I was Jaguar Adva Gal. Was happy to talk to you about this. And if ever you need help with your companies and with their banks, talk to me on privately. Do we have any questions, or did I speak fluently on that? Yes, please.
I'm speaking to a consortium of credit union banks in the United States come April, and one I'd like to offer a stipend for you to participate with me. I would like to share my stipend for that, because they're asking me for the very thing which you're an expert, which is how can these credit unions enter this space safely, knowing that their customers are asking for it.
Amazing. Some of the things I do is offer clients and which serve that, file that to the banks, an expert opinion regarding all the source of fund and all the currency trail and the crypto trail in order to make sure that each and every part of the trail is legit and is not tainted, AML tainted. So yes, we'll talk later. Sure, thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm a journalist.
Yes,
Your opinion about what do you think, because all these problems, at least what I see, is why we don't have one regulation for the whole wide world. We have different, we have here Germany made a regulation, Liechtenstein made a regulation, everybody's doing regulations. Why don't we have one regulation to rule all and everything? What's your opinion on that?
Well, first of all, you have MiCA, which is supposed to be a pan-European one, for good and for bad.
Okay.
That's one. And second, I think it has to do with international relations and politics, not regarding law, because each and every country has the sovereignty and to make their own rules. It's very basic in having the autonomy of each country. I think it's more philosophical than I can answer. I have my opinion, but it's only mine.
What if, yeah, I want your opinion.
It will never happen, because each and every country will have to want its own decision-making. However, you will find that the regulations will be very similar in many countries, because I'm part of the expert.
We have ISO. ISO is working globally.
ISO is.
And they're trying to create policies globally.
I was appointed to Israel expert committee to advise the Ministry of Finance and to present a report to the Ministry of Finance regarding how to regulate crypto in Israel. And it has to touch with banking, securities, taxation, and even accounting as well. But this is just Israel. And what we do there, which is pretty smart, I think, is to learn from the bad and the good experiences of the US, of Malta, of Gibraltar, and the bad experiences of some of the islands as well, and Germany and Liechtenstein and Switzerland as well. So we take good ideas from other countries and we try to eliminate the bad ones from where it didn't work. So I think learning from each other is something that does work. And regulators globally do cooperate among themselves, but they'll never be the same, just one unit, because that's politics. If there's no more questions, I'll finish here and give you the time. Thank you for listening and thank you for participating. And we need to continue on crypto, but to make it legit, and so that regulators will be able to include us. Thank you.